Well, hello everyone. It's Sybil Starr, and I am here to give the astrology forecast for the Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse, also known as the blood moon, that's happening on May 15th at 9:15 Pacific. And so pretty much let's see, if you are in the Eastern time zone or and east of that, the eclipse will be actually on the 16th. And so the eclipse begins at around 8:29 p.m. Pacific, and it ends around 9:54 with its maximum fullness around 9:13. And the new moon itself is at 9:15, so it's all in there. And like I said, it's a blood moon. Lunar eclipses, and especially ones that are total like this one, are called blood moons because as the shadow of the earth comes between the light that is reflected on the moon from the sun, is blocked, the moon looks red. And so everyone pretty much in the United States should be able to see this lunar eclipse. Now, this lunar eclipse, the full moon lunar eclipse, is conjunct the south node of the moon. And so South node lunar eclipses are about release. They are about releasing old emotional material. Now, full moons themselves are emotional in nature anyway. Anytime there's a full moon, people recognize that. They realize that people's behavior is erratic. And also, Mother Earth herself, they say, rises 6 inches in response to the full moon and the tides, and it impacts the tides. And so how an eclipse is different is that it's still very emotional because it is the full moon, but since the light of the sun is blocked, it impacts the electromagnetic field of the earth. So everything is kind of unsettled and feels a little different. Now, and they say the moon herself, her core is water, and the moon is related to our emotional bodies and to our own bodies, of course, because I think we're like 60% water. And so the moon represents the emotional body, feelings, memories, and a lunar eclipse can bring to light things that have been hidden about ourselves and others. And a lunar eclipses impact our most personal, private selves, including our relationships. I mean, they're often harbingers of change. Now, the Sabian symbol for this lunar eclipse is American Indians making camp in a new territory. So I feel like one of the things this is saying, it's about moving into new territory, whether that's physical or psychological or intellectual, might find some new material coming in, but certainly moving into new territory. And when we think of American Indians, we think of tribes. I also feel like this is talking about finding your tribe, being with your tribe in this new territory. Finding your soul family, being with them and moving into new territory with them. And as I talked about in the solar eclipse, I feel like what's happening is called the Mother Earth shuffle. She is shuffling everybody around to where they need to be and whom they need to be with. All right. Now, this full moon lunar eclipse is at 26 degrees in Scorpio. And of course, so that makes the sun at 26 degrees of Taurus, because the full moon is an opposition between the sun and the moon. They're exactly opposite. And so this is activating the fixed signs from 22 to 29 degrees of the fixed signs, which is Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. Now that is a square, and so that's a very dynamic kind of big shift, okay? And it could be challenging or not, but it's also in a trine to the water signs. So if you have planets at those same degrees, 22 to 29 degrees of Cancer or Pisces, you might also see some impact, but it's a trine and it's an easy flow flow of energy. It might actually be a feel-good kind of a time for you. Now, Scorpio, what does it mean when we say the moon's in Scorpio? Well, Scorpio is about deep feeling. The moon herself is about deep feeling. And so in Scorpio, the evolutionary goal is to feel everything from love and joy to grief and sorrow. And we already know that full moons are highly emotional. And it's in a water sign, which is highly emotional, and especially Scorpio, which feels things deeply. And so they say that we feel an emotion for 90 seconds. And anything after that, any suffering after that is the result of the story that we've created around that emotion. Let's just say we feel something makes us sad, makes us cry, or even makes us happy, whatever. And, we feel like we need to say, well, we feel this way because of this or that, or whatever it is. The key is to just feel the emotion, to let it come up. Don't attach a story to it, and let it move through you, because this is about this is a very healing moon. Scorpio is one of the most healing of all the signs, because it lets, just like the plant, when a plant, for a plant to be healthy, sometimes you have to remove the dead, stagnated material. That's what Scorpio does. It helps us remove old stuff we no longer need, old emotions, old behaviors, and things that really aren't serving us anymore, that really have no more life force. And it's also important to remember that, during this time, a memory may come up. And often what we actually remember is how we felt, not necessarily what happened, because 5 people can be at the same event and everyone remember it differently, because they are remembering how they felt, how they experienced that event. And so that's what's important to remember, to not get stuck on this happened or that happened, but to release how it made you feel if it is something that is painful. Because we are releasing the trauma of the past. And to release the trauma, we have to feel it. We have to feel it to heal it. Feel it, heal it, let it go. This is a purification of our emotional bodies. But Scorpio also has to do with grief. And I know sometimes grieving is a process, and we go through it and we're releasing layers. And so some things we don't let go of immediately, but to really be gentle with ourselves, but to let whatever layer it is that wants to be released, let it go. Okay. And one of the things to remember too is that as this purification process is going on, it is changing our field. And so as our resonant field changes due to this purification, our relationships may change. And we may find that we no longer resonate with people that we once did. And so it's important to, if that shows up, and I found it showing up for myself, is to just realize that we're in a different resonant field, and it's not it's not a time to lay blame or shame on ourselves or others, to just know that our field is changing. And to focus on calling in those with whom we do share the same resonant field, where we are vibrating, our soul family, our soul tribe. This is a time to connect with our tribe, those with whom we are in the same resonant field. Now, Saturn squares the eclipse and the nodes at this time as well. And so I feel like, we're calling in emotional maturity, owning our emotions, once again, without blame or shame. It's an opportunity to respond differently, to break old patterns. It's like we're at a choice point. If a situation comes up that triggers, it's kind of like also saying our triggers are up in a way. And so when our trigger comes up, is how do I respond to this? That there's a choice where we can respond in a way that really suits who we are in the process of becoming, and the goal we want. What do we want to gain from this situation? I was in a situation recently where it really came up for me, and I had a choice to get into a power struggle with someone or to say to myself, what is it I want to, what's my goal here? And I realized that it was me, that I had to become more flexible, that the person with whom I was having this almost power struggle with was really in a much more inflexible situation. And I was the one who had the ability to be flexible and to achieve my goal. That's what I chose to do. And it worked out really well, much better than had I stood my ground and said, no, it has to be this way. Okay. And also with Saturn, you know, Saturn is the Lord of karma. And so we are balancing and releasing our personal and collective karma with this lunar eclipse and thousands of years of conditioning. Saturn represents our conditioning from the past, the old paradigm, and especially the paradigm of judgment, that somehow we are not good enough, that we are flawed. And you know, as we, you know, the North Node is in Taurus, and the North Node is the way forward. And so the North Node is very much about, and Taurus is very much about self-worth, change, you know, it's about finding our own self-worth and our own value, and to let go of paradigms that tell us that there's something wrong with us. Because to be able to move into higher frequency fields, these are some of the things, the old baggage, and they're collective. It's kind of like a layer that has been put over us, and where we plug in. It's kind of like the matrix, one of the pieces of the matrix where we can unplug. And this is one of those choice point times. Okay. And so, and the other thing is, you know, we are releasing our personal and collective shadow, and releasing the trauma from the perpetrator paradigm in which we have been living, because it has impacted us all. So this is a time, as this material comes up, to be gentle with yourself, have compassion and forgiveness for yourself, uh, because we've all been imprinted by this this layer of conditioning, and we are at a point where we can release from it. And to know also that when we heal ourselves, we heal 7 generations before us, 7 generations after us, and Mother Earth. We are healing a whole energetic lineage. And this is one of those, this eclipse is just a really important eclipse to do some major healing. And we're also healing Mother Earth, because she takes in our trauma. And so as we do our healing, we are healing so many different layers and levels. Okay. And also this full moon is the Wesak Moon, which is the moon where the Buddha was born. And so everyone, all Buddhists around the world, recognize this moon as a very sacred moon. And so I feel like part of the journey is about the journey to inner peace, to release the suffering and accept the impermanence of life. This full moon is in a trine to Neptune in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces is very much about the impermanence of life, the knowing that everything is temporary. And Scorpio, which is the sign the moon is in, is about the cycles of life, death, transformation, and rebirth, and knowing where we are in that cycle, and that energy never really dies. It just changes form. And what do we need to let go of? Okay. And as I said, the North Node in Taurus, it's about knowing our own worth and value, developing self-love and self-esteem, because we have to love ourselves to be able to really love others. And then it spreads out. Okay. Now, another thing that's happening at this lunar eclipse is that Mercury is retrograde. Mercury is retrograde from May 10th to June 3rd. And when Mercury is retrograde, it's the universe indicating to us that we have gotten ahead of ourselves, that we need to slow down. We need to edit projects, finish projects, kind of like whatever we've started that we haven't finished, we need to look around and get that done, because the energy just doesn't really flow to start something new. Now, if you've already started a project, that's different, just, stay with it. Gemini, it begins at 4 degrees of Gemini. So communication may be off, so be patient. In Gemini rules communication, learning, teaching, speaking, listening, and is also very connected to computers. So just being aware that this is a time where some things can get lost out there in, gosh knows where it goes, but that when Mercury comes direct again, that whatever communication has been lost, it will show up again. And like I said, Mercury in Gemini is about communication, but it's about listening. It's more about listening than talking, okay? Because you'll learn a lot by listening, because it's about slowing down. And Mercury moves into Taurus on May 22nd. It's moving backwards. It's going from 4 degrees of Gemini and will end up at 26 degrees of Taurus. So it moves into Taurus on May 22nd. And I feel like that's about reflections upon what we really value, because Taurus is so much about our value system, a deeper connection with Mother Earth, listen to what she has to say. There's so many things going on, in the news. And one of them, of course, is, free speech. Mercury has to do with speech. So it's really important to reflect upon how important is free speech to us. Okay. And basically though, what really is, what do we really value in our lives? Okay. Now, Jupiter has changed signs as well. Jupiter moved into Aries on May 10th. Jupiter stays in a sign for approximately a year. And so Jupiter is actually still at 0 degrees Aries for this, or 1 degrees, I guess you could say, for this lunar eclipse. That's called Aries point. It's the beginning of all things. It's the most sensitive place in the zodiac. So something new is beginning. A whole new 12-year cycle is beginning. And Jupiter in Aries brings opportunities related to initiative, new enterprises, independent ventures, and self-starts. It's about having faith and belief in ourselves. When Jupiter was traveling in Pisces, it was very much about a belief in a beneficent universe and that we are never alone. And that's true. But when it moves into Aries, it's more about individuation and about our own personal sovereignty and taking charge of our lives. In Aries, Jupiter urges us to make our own opportunities, to believe in ourselves and take charge of our lives. And in conclusion, what I want to say about this lunar eclipse is that, the sun being in Taurus and that being the north node and the way forward, it's very much about aligning ourselves with Mother Earth. And with her vibrational frequency. And I've been saying, and many people have, is that, our solar system has moved into a different place in the Milky Way galaxy. We're moving closer to what is called the galactic center. And it is a high photonic field, which means there is a lot of light. So there is a frequency and energy upgrade going on. And someone just told me that the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of Mother Earth, that they are now determining that frequency is higher. So there is scientific proof that Mother Earth's frequency is higher. And our job is to align with her. The solar eclipse in Taurus on April 30th brought in new visions for the future and a new Earth with those frequency upgrades for Mother Earth and her children. This lunar eclipse is about aligning our energy field with that new frequency, and through this purification process, through this purification process, to be able to hold that higher frequency in the world, to elevate the consciousness of humanity by sharing our frequency. It is an energetic upgrade, but to be able to really go to really hold these higher frequencies, we have to let go of the old stuff that is not in alignment with this higher frequency that Mother Earth is carrying. Okay, so I want to close with this quote. I think I used it at the solar eclipse, but it's so good, I'm going to share it again. And it is, As the new Earth approaches, our ways of thinking is being challenged more and more. The veil is thinning and lifting as our consciousness expands. This is the requirement for entering the new dimension with the raising of our vibration and frequency. The old paradigms and belief systems uh, must be thrown to the wayside to make room for the new. And this is Dolores Cannon. So yes, we are moving into a new vibrational frequency field. The old belief systems and the emotions attached to them we must let go of them to align with the new Earth. All right, well, I hope you all have a wonderful eclipse. And if you liked this video, please subscribe. Check like, check subscribe. And if you're interested in contacting me, you can reach me at my website, sybylstar.com. All right. Thank you.